Well, we appreciate you coming. We wanted to thank the staff here at the Holiday Inn for accommodating us. We really appreciate that. Also, the man behind the camera is Matt Barker from New Image Media. Wave to everyone, Matt. Thank you very much. And also with Steve Petty, who is with the Warrensville Chamber, but also with New Image Media. So thank you for videotaping. There will be certain pieces here and there. They're not going to videotape everything in the whole day, but once we get everything put together, we'll put that on the website so you can take a peek at that. Pardon me. Those videos are nice. You can share them with your board. We send them to folks that weren't able to attend the meeting. So moving on in the agenda, we definitely want to thank our sponsor for today, and that is Health Management Solutions, HMS, and Paramount Preferred Solutions, PPS. We like acronyms, NOACC, PPS. We like that a lot. So we really appreciate them being our sponsor for this morning, and I would like to introduce you to Peter Young, who's going to give us a brief message.
Thank you, Cindy, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here again. We enjoyed doing this event as a sponsor and as a partner of NOACC. Actually, in the past, we've just been PPS, and if you knew us from the past, that was actually called Benefits One Group, or B1G, so there's another acronym for you. But our parent company keeps changing our names on us, so forgive us for you just maybe get to know us and then we have to change our name again. So I did want to briefly put on everybody's table, start the meeting with some really terrific news. So PPS and HMS are in the workers' comp space. We've been a partner of NOACC's since 2008. And I don't know if any of you saw in the news this week, I put this on your tables, Governor DeWine just announced in our world another $1.5 billion rebate back to all employers that are in the workers' comp system here in Ohio. So I thought you would want to see this news release. I love trying to give Cindy and the chambers information for their newsletters and anything you want to put up on your website. So this is really cool. This is the 5th time they've given back at least $1 billion with a B. So I always get the question, why do they have all this money and they keep charging us stuff? Well, here's the good news. This is stock market typically driven nowadays, although claims and costs are down in the workers' comp system. And by the way, in Ohio, you have the state is the only insurer. So TPAs and MCOs like us, and we'll talk later this afternoon about that, provide these kind of programs. I will tell you this, if you read this, is about 88% of an employer's premium is coming back. This will be in September and the fall this year instead of in the summer. But I know many employers who I work with who the state actually owed them money this year instead of the other way around. So this is really cool stuff. This is money that your members can use to reinvest in their businesses and in their communities and in their employees. So if you want to get this out, I can email it as well out to Cindy and she can distribute it, or you can contact me directly. But this is really good news again. So we'll talk more this afternoon about us, but I wanted to start the meeting off with some really what we think is cool news for Ohio employers. So Cindy, thanks.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you to HMS and PPS for being today's sponsor and for giving us $1 billion back. I like that. I'll give you my address where you can send it to. We have 2 speakers coming up that are going to share some information from the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Advocacy Office, and also the Internal Revenue Service, which always sounds bad, but he has some really great cybersecurity and some checkup type things to talk about. They will both speak one at a time, so if you have any questions, just write them down. We'll do a joint question and answer at the end when they are done. Let's see here. I'm not good with this clicker thing here. Okay. Well, first up, please help me welcome the Region 5 Advocate for the Office of Advocacy, the U.S. Small Business Administration. That's a very long title. Mr. Les Davies.
Thank you, Cindy.
Do you want to drive on your own? Do you want this up here? You want
I like to walk around, and If the microphone is too loud, let me know, because I used to be in radio broadcasting and I have a big voice, so I could get a little overwhelming. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to meet you today. In the Office of Advocacy, my job is outreach, and in outreach I'm trying to small businesses, and the best way to do that is through the chambers. And this is a great way to meet the chambers that you represent and let you know a little bit about what we do here in advocacy. Small business, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. There's a lot of challenges that small businesses face. Yesterday in the Senate Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee meeting, they were reauthorizing our office. And one of the things they talked about was access to capital. That's one of the challenges. There's some material that I have over there that talks about access to capital. If you're interested, please pick up one of those pieces. They also talked about what our office does in regulatory reform and regulatory flexibility. And these are some of the main functions that we have. These are the main challenges that small businesses face, is not only the access to capital, how do I grow, but what regulations are impeding my growth, and that's where our office comes in. As that, by the way, pointed out that many times the small businesses lack the resources to do this work for themselves, and that's where we can actually be a help to them. Our office was created by Congress in 1976. Originally, we had a mission to provide economic research to Congress on the impact of regulations on small businesses. We must have done a very good job, because 4 years later, Congress passed the Regulatory Flexibility Act, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but this is where our office got its main mission of regulatory flexibility. But we do represent all businesses, all small businesses, and also nonprofits and small municipalities before Congress, the White House, and federal agencies. And while we are a part of the Small Business Administration, we are independent. I learned yesterday in this hearing that there's actually a move now to remove the SBA from our name, just so that the confusion is not manifest, so that we're not as confused that we're not the guys that loan you money, and we're not the guys that give you business counseling. And kind of to take that back a little bit, our previous administrator in SBA, Linda McMahon, used to say that the SBA was the best kept secret in federal government. And when she and Vince were starting their wrestling enterprise, they would have liked to have had that help had they known about the SBA. Well, I would submit to you that if the SBA is the best kept secret, then the Office of Advocacy must be top secret. Because even with SBA, people don't know who we are and what we do. And that's what I'd like to teach you about today. We have three important missions in our office. The first is regulatory. When regulations are implemented by federal agencies, our office speaks in behalf of small businesses where these regulations will have an unfair impact on small businesses. We're not here to remove regulations that have a purpose, but we're here to even the playing field so that small businesses aren't at a disadvantage. The second we do is economic research, and if you stop by my table down in the corner, there's a couple of economic research pieces, the most popular of which are the state profiles. And this gives you a nice outlook on what business is like in Ohio right now. It tells you how many small businesses there are, what percentage of those businesses are women-owned or minority-owned, facts like that. The final thing we do is outreach, and that's my part. We could do a pretty good job just with our DC staff, but we really wouldn't know what's on the small businessman's mind if it wasn't for the ability to speak directly to the small businesses through our outreach program. As I said before, in 1980 they passed the Regulatory Flexibility Act. In a nutshell, what this act says is that whenever a regulation is promulgated, the regulatory agency needs to make a determination. Does this regulation have a significant impact on a substantial number of small businesses? And if they answer yes to that question, then our office gets involved in helping them reform the rule or give them suggestions on how this rule could have less of an impact. And they are required to consider these alternatives in the rulemaking process. This is what we've been doing for about 40 years now, primarily with regulatory flexibility. Now, it says here in fiscal year 2018, our office intervention resulted in changes to 18 specific rules, resulting in a savings of $253 million. Okay, not as big as what the workman's comp in Ohio gave back to small business, but I think this is an interesting number, because if you read the report from 2016, which is the first year that I was on board, it says that we saved a little over $1 billion. And in 2017, it was a little less than $1 billion. And then in 2018, you see $253 million. As you see that number go down, to me that reflects that under this administration, fewer regulations are being promulgated. We've seen fewer regulations promulgated and a closer look at the ones that are. And so our impact, while it may be smaller in dollar amounts, really does reflect the fact that there's a slowdown in new regulations coming from this administration. And speaking to that, when President Trump was inaugurated, he signed 2 important executive orders. Now, the first executive order, 13771, is the one we affectionately call the 2-for-1. And this dictates or mandates to all the regulatory agencies, whenever they promulgate a major regulation, they need to identify 2 regulations to come off the books. As they go through this process, they've added some language to this process that every regulation looked at has to be considered regulatory or deregulatory. And the goal here in this executive order is to reduce the financial burden on small businesses. Now, does anyone here have an idea of what the financial burden on small businesses is annually in regulations? Anyone have an idea? It's a big number. $1.95 trillion annually is the cost to small businesses, or to businesses in general, on regulations. It's a big number. It's a huge number. Just to put it in perspective, the revenue brought in to the United States, tax revenue, both personal and business, is $1.88 trillion. So the regulatory burden is actually larger than the tax revenue. And if the regulatory burden were a country, it would be the 7th largest economy in the world. There's a lot of work to do. But this executive order seeks to do just that, is to reduce this regulatory burden on businesses. Executive Order 13777 was a companion to that, and all regulatory agencies are mandated now to identify a regulatory reduction officer and a regulatory reduction task force, and to work with our office to find out what regulations the small business people are telling us ought to be looked at. And again, this is our job now, is to talk to small businesses and learn from them what changes need to be made. So we've always stood for reducing unnecessary regulatory burdens. We're helping now, in addition to looking at regulations that are coming on the books, to looking at regulations that are already on the books and seeing what it is we can do to help. We do need feedback, though, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here necessarily to meet the chambers and the associations, although that's my portal, that's my gateway. I'm here to meet your businesses. I really want to find out what your businesses are saying about regulations. We need to hear from the small business that considers the periodic census data that's required of them and takes about 15 hours a month for the president of the company, of the 20-person company, to fill out these forms. We want to find out what it is about that they find challenging. We want to learn how they would suggest this happen so that it's less of a burden on them. And so again, we do this through our outreach. This is a nice map of the United States. You'll find up in this, I wouldn't even know what that color is called up there. But that's my region. I cover 6 states in the Midwest. Probably have the busiest region in the country. The good news is I'm officed out of Columbus, Ohio, so I'm close by. And I'm here to serve you as well as all of our other advocates. In addition to the regional advocates that our office has, we've also added 2 advocates to work on a national level. Our rural advocate is a fellow by the name of Joe Nylands. Joe comes out of Wisconsin, and he's here specifically to look at rural issues, dairy farming, things like this, that impact small businesses. We've also added a national manufacturing and technology advocate whose mission is obviously manufacturing and technology. And when I'm doing my little tours through the states, I'll bring these fellows along as often as I can squeeze them out of the other regions so that we can all talk together to small businesses and find out what it is that's impacting them. So again, we do rely upon the input of small business. We want them to speak to us and tell us what's on their mind. I believe, is it Jill? We were talking earlier about women-owned small businesses. We are looking at the SBA is looking at a rule change for certifying women-owned small businesses, and our office is effective, we hope, in getting this information out to women-owned small businesses that this rule change is being considered, and what do they think about this. So again, we need to hear back from them on these rules and what they think about them. We'd like you to visit our website if you have information you'd like to give us on rules that need to be changed or are being proposed. The website you see here, sba.gov/advocacy, is going away. But right now it's the only portal where you can get to this form and fill it out and have your businesses complete this form. They can sign up for our listserv so they can get updates, and also they can attend regional regulatory reform roundtables. My first week on the job was August 2017, and we held roundtables throughout Ohio. We had a big one here in Cleveland. Social media. How many here on LinkedIn? I hope I see some hands raised. Great. I would like you to enter my name in the search bar and connect with me on LinkedIn. One of the reasons is that I post frequently in LinkedIn on things that our office is doing. If there's a regulatory change, I'll post it on LinkedIn. Hey, you guys, take a look at this. If we're doing roundtables, I'll post it on LinkedIn. It's a great way to communicate what we're doing out there, and my goal is to get 2,000 connections before too long, so you'll help me reach that goal. But this is a really good tool, and one of the most active ones that our office uses. Our office also is on Facebook. Now, you can look for me on Facebook and connect. What you're probably going to see mostly are my children. My 5-year-old just graduated from preschool yesterday, and my senior graduated the day before. I really am that old. But again, Advocacy has a presence on Facebook as well, and we do post there from time to time. Twitter is another activity. If you look for us on Twitter, if you're a tweeter, you can follow us on Twitter, and you can get our updates through that as well. As you can tell, I don't tweet very often. We also have, again, our website where you can get on there and take a look at some of the blogs that we write. I wrote one about a week ago. I will probably be writing one about today's meeting. And we want, again, to go a little more into depth about the things we're seeing as advocates, and you'll see these things on our website. By the way, this is the new address for our website, advocacy.sba.gov. It's a much nicer looking website, but it hasn't fully migrated over. One of the things you'll find on there, and this is the section of my presentation I call What's New. What's happening currently with SBA. We just released our Regulatory Flexibility Act report for 2018. I've talked about it a little bit. These are some of the highlights from that report. It's 60-some pages, but it's really quite interesting to know what our office is doing in regards to regulatory flexibility. And this is a little more EPA. You'll hear from my friend in just a second on the EPA. But they proposed a rule recently about the gasoline standards. And so this is another update you'll see through our office. If you go to our webpage, we will post these updates on here. You'll also get monthly regulars. If you have a business card, please make sure I get it. I'll add you to my list of folks that I send these regulars to. You may look at it and say, nothing here applies to me, but please send it out to the folks you deal with, because somebody may have an issue here that we're talking about that would impact them. And this is my obligatory slide about the SBA. Remember that our office is independent from the SBA. I can't explain very well how these programs work because that's not my arena. But there is a parent organization in our office called the SBA, and they're the ones that are going to help you grow your business through business counseling. They do guarantee business loans and have programs for women-owned small businesses and others. To get more information, contact Gil Goldberg in the Cleveland office. He's more happy to tell you about this. All I'm going to do is probably confuse you. Once again, we're an independent office. We listen to small businesses' concerns. We take the concerns back to our nation's leaders. We want to know what regulations are impacting you. And one final thought before I bring in two of my guests is that we also work with international trade. Whenever the president announces an international trade agreement or negotiation he wants to enter into, our office gets involved talking to small business to discover from them how these trade agreements should be impacted. We recently held one in Columbus, a roundtable in Columbus, for trade negotiations with Japan, EU and UK. And we needed to hear from small business on how these trade negotiations should look. We submit a report to Congress so that they can make changes to these negotiations or vote up and down on them. And again, we're looking to expand our role there in international trade negotiations. Again, being that outreach is important and it's what we do, we also get a lot of questions in our office about state things. And it's not unusual for us to get confused between state and federal programs. And so I brought a couple of friends. Why don't you come forward here? Rebecca and from the State Treasurer's Office. And Todd's filling in for Dan Sowery here from the Ohio EPA. These are two important state partners that we work with, and you really need to give a listen to what they have to say because they're here to help your small businesses as well. We have an acronym, actually it's a very confusing one, but it's famous words of Ronald Reagan. We're from the government, we're here to help. We really are from the government, and we really are here to help. And Rebecca, I'll turn about 5 minutes over to you.
That's good. Thank you and good morning. So you're probably wondering, what does the State Treasurer's Office have to offer me? Well, we actually have several things, but the thing that I like to focus on the most is our linked deposit programs. We have 4 linked deposit programs. 2 of them have to do with small businesses. So you can receive up to a 3% interest rate on new or existing loans. One of them, the Grow Now, is to hire 1 full-time employee or 2 part-time employees. And then the second one is the Re-Energize Ohio, and this is to make any updates to your building eco-friendly, anything along that line. I was kind of looking at the standards, and whatever you like, it seems like we're allowing to do, which is nice. I also have one for homes and anyone involved in the agricultural world. So please wait, I have all the flyers on the back there, so take advantage of them. I also want to let you know that I am your resource. If you're not sure where to go in the office, in the governor's office, lieutenant governor's office, please contact me. I know everyone that's up here in Northeast Ohio, so I'd like to be a resource for you. The last project that we have going on that could potentially affect you in a positive way is called Results Ohio. And Results Ohio creates an infrastructure within the Treasurer's Office to pursue a pay-for-success approach to tackling the social issues, public health, anything along that line. It's still in the legislature. Right now, we're waiting on the Senate to pass the bill so we can start this program. So keep your eyes out on it. Always check out ohiotreasurer.gov. But like I said, I'm here all day. I've got cards. I love to talk with you. If you have any other questions, concerns, let me know. Yep, that's it. Short and easy.
Okay. And again, same, if I'm talking too loud, just let me know. Sometimes I get a little loud and a little winded because I talk way too much. I'm from the EPA, and don't everybody run out of the room when I say that. We're actually here to help. The office I'm in is, and I'm new to this, so it's the acronyms for EPA. Everybody loves acronyms over at EPA. It's DFA, so it's Environmental and Financial Assistance, and actually it is what it means. The office was set up just a couple years ago, and it merged kind of financial assistance and compliance assistance. The compliance assistance arm is really what's going to impact your folks the most. What this is in 1990, with the Clean Air Act requirements, the legislation actually set up 3 different organizations or units within state government. One is the Small Business Ombudsman. The other one is Small Business Environmental Assistance Program, and another one is CAP, Compliance Assistance Panel. The Compliance Assistance Panel is made up, and these 3 are made up strictly for small businesses. The CAP, the Compliance Assistance Panel, is an organization that is made up of small businesses, and they're appointed by the governor and the legislature. Now, these are businesses from around the state, and what they do is they kind of are the ears of the voice of small businesses into the EPA. So if there's issues that a small business will see, that there's a reg that, is really complicated, or something else like this, or something else that's coming down the line that EPA would want to get out there and let small businesses know. That's what this cap is for. Around the country, there aren't too many caps that are active. Ohio is one of the few, there's probably about 20 caps that are active across the country. So Ohio is one of the ones that has one of the more active caps. So we're lucky in that area. The Small Business Ombudsman in Ohio is really more of a financial assistance for installing any kind of pollution control equipment or new equipment that reduces emissions. That's in another office, the Ohio Air Quality Development Authority. And I just moved over from that to where I am now at EPA about a week and a half ago. So, but with the Small Business Environmental Assistance Programs, that is another acronym, OCAP, Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. And they are really an interesting office where we will go out and go to different, if we're asked to come in, we'll go into different businesses to assist them in looking at what needs to be permitted, what permits am I not, don't actively have right now, or where can you help me? They'll go to the extent of actually writing the permit application in some cases, finding different things. And one of the best things is with all these organizations that all the information is confidential, so it can't be used in any kind of enforcement action. And that's in statute. So if somebody, does something, it's not a good situation where somebody goes and, like, our offices are locked, our computers are set up where we've got firewalls within our computers. Nothing goes from a regulatory and back and forth. It's really a good separation. Also with Ohio, it's really nice that with the OCAP office, we're kind of a model for the nation, where initially we were set up just to do air work. And after several years, it's become multimedia. So they'll be able to do assistance for you with regards to water, soil, or anything like that. And there's a couple of other programs that we have where we'll do grants for recycling. So it'll be a community program, or if there's a business that wants to recycle, let's say they've got cardboard that they're looking to recycle, and they would be able to, if they had a baler, to be able to put into basically the cardboard into a more marketable commodity, that we would be able to help fund the baler with grants. Also, there's a environmental excellence awards that we have 4 tiers that'll recognize different companies that go above and beyond for environmental protection.
Okay, well, I have the honor of introducing our speaker. Jill Wendelsbeck works with organizations of all sizes and industries and helps them optimize talent through the use of predictive index tools and resources. Jill brings over 20 years of experience in leading talent management and organization effectiveness initiatives globally, working with 15 countries in both regional and global organizations, including Eaton, Honeywell, and First Energy. Pardon. She owns her own coaching and consulting business, which is Talent Specialist Consulting, and is an executive consultant with Day 91 Consulting, which is a predictive index certified partner. To hear more about how to boost the performance of your chamber by becoming more agile, gaining clarity and focus on your purpose, please help me welcome Jill Wendelsbeck.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm really thrilled with the opportunity to be here and spend time with you today to talk about agility and how it really impacts your business and really help you understand what is the purpose of your business. Why do you exist? Are you existing the same way that you did 5, 10 years ago? or have you changed what you're doing? And this is going to be interactive as well. I'm not just going to be speaking at the front of the room for the next hour and a half, because that would be extremely boring and no fun. I have a background in neuroscience, and I use that in my coaching and consulting and presenting as well. And I know that as adults, we like to learn from each other. So this is going to be highly interactive. I'm going to be asking you to really think deeply about your chamber, about your purpose. You're going to get a chance to actually do a little bit of planning today as well. And then most importantly, you're going to do some brainstorming and talking with others that are here for putting your strategy in place to move forward. So when we think about agility, there's a great article. It says agility rhymes with stability. And that's because you have to be agile enough in your organizations, in your life, and everything that you do so that you can change when the environment changes around you. We had some great presentations earlier just talking about the changes in regulation. As those regulations change, how are you adapting to that? If your structures and your processes are so rigid that you can't adapt to those changes, then you're not going to be as successful. You're not going to be able to move as quickly as you need to. But it doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all. It doesn't mean that you don't have any structure in place. It's enough structure so that you can move when the changes are there, but not so much that it really holds you back. Now, when I think about agility, I think about three key things, and one is mindset. And mindset is everything. And I do a lot of work with leaders and organizations and thinking about their mindset. Mindset are those beliefs and the values, those things that you hold dear, the way you grew up. Here's an interesting neuroscience fact. About 90% of what you believe today was formed since the age of 12. When you were born to 12, everyone that's around you, the experiences that you have, all of those make up your subconscious mind, your mindset. They drive the actions that you take, they drive the people you connect with, they drive the business decisions that you make as well. And so you really have to be more agile, unpack that mindset. What are the things that you believe today? Are they really true? Are they true because that's how you were raised? That's what other people around you believe? Is that a truth that's helping you today? And I'm going to really challenge you later as you think about your purpose and the purpose of the chamber. Because you're all leaders today. You're leaders of these chambers. And if you're operating today the same way that you operated 20 years ago, I would guarantee you're not going to be successful. Because people's needs have changed. And I'm going to share with you some statistics and some things to consider as you think about how you've changed. So mindset's important. And especially when you've been in a role for a long time. How many of you have been the leader of a chamber for more than 5 years that you're in today? Okay, more than 10 years. Great. And so that is wonderful. There's no, you've been in there a long time. You're obviously successful in leading. That can be great because you have stability and leadership. And then you have to challenge yourself to say, how am I reinventing the chamber? How am I reinventing my way of leadership as well? So mindset, I'm going to challenge you to think about your mindset. And then your strategy. How agile is your strategy? How many of you have a written business plan right now, a written strategy for your chamber? Okay. That's pretty good, about at least half. It's interesting, I went to a conference around manufacturing professionals, and they said that these were small to mid-sized businesses. Almost 60% did not have a written business plan. That floored me. I'm a recovered corporate girl, so I've worked at these big corporate organizations where we had business plans and processes and everything was written down and you understood that. And it really helps you know your focus and where you want to go. So you have to have a good strategy. You have to understand what that strategy is. And everyone around you has to understand what that strategy is as well, so you can be agile. So when things come at you, ideas come at you, opportunities come at you, you're able to decide, is this for me? Is this for the chamber? Is this something that's going to help us? Or is it something that's going to distract us? And it's going to cause us to be less successful than what we are. If you have a written strategy, if you understand it and everyone inside your organization understands it, everyone on your board, then it's easier to make decisions. It's easier to take action. When we don't have that, and we don't have a shared purpose and shared strategy, that's where mindset really gets into play, because everyone has opinions or ideas around what they want to do. Am I right? How many of you have boards where there's differences in opinions? Okay. Yeah, everybody comes in, everyone has an agenda. But the way to really lead and be effective and be agile and move forward is to get alignment around that. Not so rigid, you can't change what you need to do, but it has to have enough stability with that strategy so they know what's important. The last is behaviors. And so you have to behave in a way as well that's agile, that's quick, that helps you not move so fast that you're going to, completely change what you're doing and what you need to do. But those behaviors are in place that are going to help support the organization and support your chamber. And you're really clear about what those behaviors are. How many of you have a code of conduct for your chamber? So a handful. So those of you that do, maybe you can share with others. But having a code of conduct, having expectations around behaviors. How do we expect our leaders to behave? In your guidelines, is there something in there around being agile or being open to change, listening to others?
Is to be much more forward thinking, and that's a goal. Is how are we going to position ourselves? We're turning 100 years old in 2 years, and how are we going to be for the future, and what does that future look like? And it's kind of a hard transition right now because people aren't coming to events, they're not doing things, and so what is and how are we going to engage people in this new economy and this new technology? And so it's an interesting conversation because half of my board is traditional and then the other half is millennial, and they're very end of the perspective on the younger business yesterday we had a meeting, and I don't mean to take the mic, but I have but we have a board member who's like, we need to have more luncheons, and then I have another one who says, I don't come, we don't need them. So what do you do?
Exactly. Oh, I love that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit too. The changes and how are we doing things. We can't do it in the same way that we've always done in the past. That's great. It's great that you're thinking forward in that way. And it's great that you've admitted you haven't tackled that challenge yet, because maybe that's something we can even start talking about here and doing here as well. So mindset, strategy, and behaviors, those three things, no matter what you're doing, are important to consider. Because everyone brings, we could call it their briefcase or their experiences, or some people can call it baggage to the table. And you have to figure out what's the best way to use it and what's the best way to really be effective in leading. Okay, great. So this is a workshop that we did about 2 months ago. And it's through we have workplace coffee talks. Just wanted to mention that this is where a lot of this came from, and we're sharing with others, is where Cindy and I met. My partner and I, she really focuses on the legal and HR best practices, and I focus on leadership and culture. And so we call it From Litigation to Inspiration. And we take workplace topics, and we spend about 2 hours. It's highly interactive like this, and we get people to talk among themselves and bring some great research and ideas around how this can come into play. And when I was doing research around agility, I found this great research that McKinsey had done around the 5 trademarks of agile organizations. And even though they studied a lot of larger organizations, these things apply to you inside any size organization. The first is they found that they were very clear around their strategy and purpose, and they called it their North Star. People understood why they existed. They understood the strategy behind that. They were connected with it. They had a personal connection with it. not just a head connection, but a heart connection. How many of you have heard of the Golden Circle and Simon Sinek's Find Your Why? Yeah, if you haven't, go to YouTube and pull it up. He does a great way of really talking about that. But what he talks about there is that people don't buy or connect with others based on what you do. Because there's a lot of people that do what you do and offer what you offer. They get connected with that why. And that's the neuroscience connection that comes into play. So we get attracted to people who we feel are similar to us, or we can connect with them. They have a purpose that's similar to our purpose, similar to our own. And so organizations that are agile are very clear around their North Star, and they're very clear about their purpose. And that way they can also attract the people that are attracted to their purpose, and they understand where they're headed and where they're going to go. When you understand very clearly what you're about and what's important, you make better decisions. You attract the right people. You minimize distractions. We are so distracted today, more than ever before, because of technology, right? And so we can easily get distracted by things that aren't important to us. So agile organizations, they can move quickly because they know where they're headed. They know whether the shifts of change that are happening make sense for them, or if it's something that they should move away from. The second is how they're structured. Years ago, and organizations are still structured this way, a lot of them very hierarchical. And that made sense when our organizations were more like manufacturing, where work was the same and it was repetitive, and you needed to have an executive who told the manager what to do, and you needed a manager that told the supervisors what to do, and whose supervisors told the employees what to do, right? We're in more of the knowledge workforce today. But some organizations are still structured in that same old hierarchical way, and it doesn't make sense. It's very bureaucratic. If there's not value added in your structure inside your organization, how can you flex and move when it takes that long for messages to get down the organization? Agile organizations really are blowing up their structures, and they're looking at, where do decisions need to be made? Where does the power need to lie around that? And they have more empowered teams. They are more networked as well. They're looking at, do we really need to have these static divisions and structures, or are we going to have flatter and more fluid organizations and ad hoc groups? And you might even think about this with your own group, with your own chamber. Do you have really specific and static roles, or do you create teams and groups when you need them and disband them when they no longer make sense? If you do the latter, you're much more agile because you can create and remove when you need to. Organizations that do that are much more successful. They're able to innovate more quickly. They're able to move the talent around where they need them. It's also more engaging and empowering, and they allow decisions to be made at the lowest level in the organization. Think about the decisions, and we're going to break into this too later. Where are the decisions made in your chamber? Are the decisions made, are recommendations made, floated up, and then have to give a sign of approval at the top? Or are you empowering and allowing people to not only have responsibility, but accountability and ability to make decisions? Agile organizations empower them to make decisions. That means letting go for you as leaders, right? Letting go of some of those decisions, because if you have bureaucracy in your decision-making process, how are you agile? How are you going to be able to move quickly? If you believe in the people enough to give them the responsibility and authority in those roles and those teams, give them the ability to take the decision and make the decision. I bet about 80% of your decisions could be made without full consensus or full voting rights. But a lot of times we have bureaucracy in play, and we feel like it's always been this way. We've always had this way that we're doing it, and didn't think about changing it. well, blow the system up. There's nothing that's holding you back to that. And if you want to be agile, you want to be quick, you want to react to, like you said earlier, the millennials and all these things, that disruptive technology, you've got to be more empowering of your teams. The fourth thing they did was they hired people and they brought in people that were dynamic, that were open to change. You know, when you think about what do you look for in people that join your board? I'm not talking about your, customers, because that's a different base, but who do you have on your board? How clear are you around what you need? Are you bringing people in that are going to help you drive change and engage others and look at the best for the whole organization? Are you clear about that? Do you have processes and ways that you're communicating that? Do you have a way that you can identify who is going to be most effective in those areas? If not, then you're leaving a lot to chance. And agile organizations are very clear about who they want to bring in. They get that North Star, so they try to connect people on the purpose level, but they also do a really good job in selecting people, and they use tools and processes and ways to connect with people and find out, are they right for organization? Are they going to help us change? Are they aligned with our structure and organization? The last one is that they enable technology. Now, this may be a little scary to think about because of what Anthony just said. He said cybersecurity and threats are everywhere, right? Well, agile organizations, they enable their technology. They have it so it's more connected. I know I've worked in several organizations where there were so many technology platforms and they didn't communicate with each other, and it was really disruptive. It wasn't helpful, and it didn't help you make decisions quickly. You had to go on multiple systems today. So the more that you're able to connect whatever technology you're using today to one stream, one way, so you can, if part of your chamber responsibility is to post information, are you able to post it in one place and then it go to 5 immediately, or do you have to go to 5 different places to post that? What are the ways that you're using technology today? Agile organizations look at the technology they're using and they make sure it's connected and talks to each other, and there's not redundancies inside the organization. So really interesting 5 key things, and we're going to talk about a few of these things and have you actually do some work around that. We're going to start now with the North Star. So I want you at your tables, and maybe one or two could join that so we have an equal distribution. I want you to think about the purpose of your chamber. Why do you exist? I went out and I did some looking on some chamber sites to see mission or vision or purpose around there. And I can tell you some were okay, some were not too compelling, right? And so as you think about your purpose, I really want you to think about why you exist. Why are you here? Not what you do, not how you do it, but why do you exist? Okay? Any questions before I have you do this? All right. Spend some time at your tables, probably about 15 minutes or so, and then we're going to do a quick debrief. Okay, if you want to start wrapping up your conversations, I'm going to share one thing with you, and then I'm going to ask you to share your compelling why, or at least what you started to put together. So I mentioned Simon Sinek and the golden circle, and I use this quite a bit when I work with organizations and then also with individuals to really get them connected to their why, to their purpose. He's got some resources too. This is Find Your Why, the workbook. There's a book. There's a small book, and then there's also a workbook that walks you through step by step how you can apply it to yourself personally, how you could apply it to organizations as well. So that might be something that's helpful for you. But I want to share with you at the very beginning of the book, when we talk about a compelling purpose, he says the following pitch follows the typical template that you might hear. And I know you're probably used to hearing pitches in the chamber all the time when you stand up and say, what do you do? And we all have this usually incredibly boring pitch around what it is. And here's the one that's pretty standard. We sell paper. We offer the highest quality product at the best possible price, lower than any of our competitors. Want to buy some? Compelling, right? But then he rewrote it. He rewrote it to get to your heart. And he says, what good is an idea if it can't be shared? Our company was founded to spread ideas. The more ideas that are shared, the greater the likelihood that those ideas will have an impact in the world. There are many ways to share ideas. One is the written word. That's where we come in. We make paper for those words. We make paper for big ideas. Want to buy some? Isn't that good? Kind of gets shivers down your spine. I'm like, oh my God, you're creating, world's purpose and helping innovators and creators and do all these amazing things. And it really gets you connected, right? You're much more connected to that second person, and you want to buy into it whether or not you need paper or not. You might have 10 reams at home, but I buy 10 more because I want to be connected to that purpose. So who would like to share their why? Yes, I'm going to do a little talk show host kind of thing and walk back here so everybody can hear you.
Boring. I read it somewhere and copied it. Type of purpose statement that gets no members. It says purpose to advocate for small minority businesses through education, networking, government legislation, and access to capital. That's our purpose.
Compelling. And I noticed in that too, and I think we'll all go back and say we need to do more work on that. In that, it's also the what and the how, right? And so when you talk about your purpose and your why, nobody comes to you because of what you do. I mean, there's lots of advocates we can go to, right? And it's thinking about why you? Why do you even exist? Why is it important to you? Why are you passionate about that? What will change in the world as a result of that? No, it doesn't have to be longer or more detailed. It just needs to be heartfelt. Like, why? Why you? Why is this important at all? Yeah, why is the chamber there? And you don't have to answer this right now. But it's just things, for you and everyone. And because these are tough questions, I don't expect you to, have it and create it now because you want to create it with others. But just think about the why. Why do you exist? When you think about your purpose, it should be tied to not only what you do, what you love to do, what you do well, but what the world needs. Why does the world need your chamber? Why are you really existing? And once you uncover that and understand that, it's going to change everything. It's going to change everything for your business, your company. And I've seen people transform their lives when they really understand why they're here and what they want to do. It frees you up. It'll free you up as a chamber, and it'll connect you with more people. Thank you so much for sharing that. Who else wants to share their why? Did you raise your hand? No one needs to be perfect right now, but this is just a chance to really dig in and think about, is my why?
I think at our table, with the Solon Chamber, and just sort of say, I question the why less now than when I first started, but to serve as advocates for the business community by supporting and fostering vibrant economic growth. That doesn't mean much. It's very nebulous. I started writing, another one, using some of the terms of, a strategic organization focused on the needs of the business community. I think would resonate more. But this exercise is certainly showing us that just because it's been on paper since 1927 doesn't mean that it's relevant today.
And that's what happens. We get so caught up in, I have to tell you all these really sterile things and join our chamber of com. Instead, I love how it's, hey, do you want to be connected with some of the greatest people that I know? And sit around the table and talk and share ideas? If you do, then maybe stop by our chamber. I love that. I love that because it gets to our heart. It talks about connectedness. It's not about I'm looking for your fees. It's like, no, do you like talking to great people? Cool. If you don't come. Okay, I have this one over here and then I'll come back.
Basically, I think our mission is your connection to the business community. But what I tell people when they call me is please come to one of our events to get to know us. And we provide networking opportunities at everything we do. Most of them are informal. But as I tell people, it's not always who you know, it's who knows you. If you don't come to every event, pick and choose. The more people get to know you and like you, trust you, the better chance that if they don't need your service, a friend, relative, or coworker will need it. And if it's one of your services, you come to mind because they know you. So please get yourself out there on occasion and let our members get to know each other.
I love how you're really talking about connections and understanding and the know, like, and trust and really getting there and really thinking about the why I would even show up, why I would do this. Because there's so much competition out there, guys, for you. I know I started my business less than 3 years ago and I started to go to a few small chamber events, but it was hard to think about where do you spend your time and what is it worth and what's the difference between you and why should I join? And I didn't really get a lot of clear messages around that. So I think as we look at disruptors, that's something we have to think about. Did you want to share yours?
Sure. So we went through an exercise similar to this at a board retreat. And so we have the standard mission. We were founded in 1911 to advance the business interests of the professional and industrial community of Lakewood, Ohio. So from 1911. So we updated that, but we really worked hard on the vision statement portion of it, kind of where we wanted to go and what we really were, how we were relevant now. And our board members really felt like it was all about, similar to what everybody else is saying, about growing businesses in our community, professional development, and the way we do it best. Our best skill is helping you build relationships. So we came up with, founded on the belief that we were stronger together than we are apart, the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce empowers businesses to connect with each other in order to collaborate, maximize their growth and their business.
Yeah. So it's more about them and what you're going to feel and what you're going to do and your mission around that. Yeah, that's great. That's great work to do, and it's hard work, right? 'Cause you have to really think through it. And we were having a conversation over here just about the difference between vision and mission and strategy. And vision is that picture, that future, something that you can see that's far out. Mission is where you're at today in your heart. It's the why. Why do you even exist? Why? And when you have that why, you can connect everything else to it. So if it's to connect other people, connect businesses, what is it you're doing to connect businesses? If what you're doing isn't connecting businesses to each other, then why are you doing it? It really helps you make that measure around it. And strategy is your tactics, those things that you're going to do. We usually start with what we do, right? Here's what we do. That hits our head. Our head does not make decisions. Our heart is what makes decisions. When we have to logically think about whether or not we will do something, it takes us a while. And then when we do it, we don't usually make the best decision anyway, that rational decision. And then later on, have you ever gone to, let's say, go buy a big screen TV? And you're looking at these different TVs and you can hear all the rational reasons as to why one might be better than the other or what one has. But if you really don't know the nuances and the differences, it doesn't make any difference. So you buy the big screen TV, bring it home, and then next day you go to your neighbor's house and they bought the other big screen TV. And now you're jealous. You're like, oh, maybe I should have bought that. I don't know. Do I like it? Because you bought it with your head and not your heart. You didn't fall in love with it. Right? So getting to their heart is really important. And so dig deep as you look at your whys. I challenge you to go back and talk to your board and say, why do we exist? Let's have a really good answer, a really good reason around that. And does it compel you to show up? Does it compel you to join us? It's a great exercise. I work with from nonprofits to for-profits doing visioning, strategy, mission work, and it's not done overnight. It's done over time. But once you get it, once you get that North Star, everything is clearer for us. And you know, from a neuroscience perspective, the brain loves certainty. It loves clarity. When we give clarity to our members, clarity to our people, they know where they should go. They put their energy in the right way, their intentions in the right way, their focus in the right way. People will show up for you because they know what they're going to get out of this. So spend some time doing this. So let me ask you a question. How do you communicate your vision and mission today? What do you do to communicate it? Nothing? How many of you have it on your website? Okay, how many of you didn't even know what it was until you went on your phone to go on your website? That's honest. That's so honest. Yeah. So if it should be something so compelling that you know it and it's on the back of your tongue. It's easy. It rolls right off your tongue. Right? So make sure that you're communicating this to the board members at your next meeting. Have a $20 bill or $5 bill or Starbucks gift card. I don't care what it is. And say, I will give this to the first person who can repeat the mission. Why we exist. I guarantee you'll keep whatever it is that you're trying to give away. Maybe the second or third time they'll start looking at it and learning it, but it's a really great strategy to get aligned with this and communicate with this. Get the people on your board to talk about it and make sure that they're talking about it outside the organization and make sure it's really compelling because everything hinges on this. If you don't believe that, you're going to be in trouble because there's so many options for people today. There's lots of advocacies. There's lots of ways that business can connect. We've got the internet. We've got all kinds of forums that are online. We've got different generations who have ways to connect that I'm still learning about and things that, you know, I couldn't even list how many ways there are for people to connect or people to get advocates. So if that's your biggest area that you're pulling people in, think about, maybe we're in the wrong business or what's different about us, right? So I have a question for you. I'm curious, what do you think these three companies have in common? They're all gone. They're all gone. That is the right answer. Do you know why they're all gone? Change. They didn't adapt to change. So Kodak was the leader, right? And they're still around, but they're not the leader that they could have been in their field. You know, Kodak created the first digital camera in 1975. They were already there. You know, the problem was they didn't find themselves, they thought that they were in the film industry. So they didn't capitalize on that. What they didn't realize is they were really in the memories and storytelling industry. And so Sony capitalized on that. And they went forward. And so Kodak didn't spend the money or invest the money. Therefore, the majority of them are no longer around. They didn't pay attention to what was going on. They didn't change their purpose based on, they didn't really know why they existed in the right way. What about Blockbuster? How many of you used to go to Blockbuster? Everybody went to Blockbuster, right? That was the only way that you could really get videos. You know what their biggest money-making thing was? Late fees. Absolutely. Their revenue was... How many of you paid? You paid a lot, right? I know every time I'd go to turn one in, my husband would run one. It'd be like $20. I'm like, are you kidding me? Late fees. Yeah, that was a big revenue model for them. And so they thought... Netflix actually offered to buy them out for, I think it was over $50 billion. And what they said was, no, we're successful. You're crazy. Nobody's going to want to order a DVD to come to them and wait for that. That's not going to happen. They didn't realize it. And so they stayed in their steady way. They said, no, we got brick and mortar. We make a lot of money. They didn't realize that what was changing is technology was changing. And they didn't realize that people were really interested in being able to watch anything they want live stream and not even have to go to Blockbuster anymore and not have to return things anymore. So they are no longer existing today. Borders. Why is Borders gone? It's not just Amazon. Kindles. What about, who has Nook? Okay. Barnes & Noble is still around because Borders said, we're going to sell DVDs and CDs right at about the time that things were again streaming. So their business model, they were not focusing on what was going to be happening in the future. And Barnes & Noble actually said, you know what, we're going to create our own, the Nook. And we're going to, have things live stream. We're going to be able to look at technology. We're not just going to focus on the brick and mortar types of things. So they are no longer in business as well. And the number one reason, like you said, change, they didn't adapt boldly. A great book, I read a lot of books, but I'll tell you, I learn a lot. The CEO Next Door. There was research done on hundreds of executives that these women from McKinsey had helped to hire and assess and select, and they found 4 key behaviors that differentiated successful CEOs. One of them was that they adapted boldly. And they did that by letting go of the past, letting go of what worked before and realizing the change that needed to take place. They were also able to make decisions faster because they were connected to their North Star. They knew what it was. They were very clear. And they made decisions that they weren't 100% sure of. The speed at which they make decisions paralyzed or accelerated their organizations. The longer you wait to take a decision, the longer that decision gets stale and the longer someone else takes advantage of whatever it is that's in front of you. Do you know that I saw an interesting statistic? 10% of non-financial S&P 500 companies in 1983 remained in 2013. 10%. And the average lifespan went from 65 years to 23 years. And I know the chambers have a long history. Who had a 100-year coming up? You have a 100-year coming up. You're at 100. How many are at 100 or more years? Yeah. How are you adapting boldly? Are you adapting boldly? Pull out that picture of 100 years ago. Are you doing some of the same things? How about 10 years ago? What's changed in the last 10 years that you might want to be aware of and you might want to think about when it comes to adapting boldly within your environment? This was another interesting statistic based on the research that McKinsey had done. They said 82% of organizations that they had studied had done some type of organization change or redesign. And only 23% were successful. You're shaking your heads, yeah. Why do you think they were only 23% successful? They didn't change anything? They were too late? Yeah. Ooh, that's a big one. Saying it and didn't believe it. Yeah, that's called cognitive dissonance, where you say one thing, you believe another, and you really won't. Unless you believe it in your heart, you're not going to do it. But one of the main reasons, in addition to some of those things, was they didn't help the people change. They didn't have the change management in place. So think about this. You go back to your chamber, you get all excited about your vision or mission, and you want to change this, and you're going to adapt boldly. What happens if you turn around and nobody's marching behind you? Yeah. You're looking, you're like, where are the people that are supposed to help? Right? You've got to change their hearts, change their minds. People have to know the why before they'll change. They have to have that compelling reason. So getting the reason why these reorganizations and restructures didn't work is people didn't understand why, and they didn't have that what's in it for me, that desire to change. I've been involved in organization redesign for the last 10, 15 years, and I know this is absolutely true. The right answer is not enough. It's never enough. You have to think about hearts and minds. Why are you changing? What's in it for them? What do they need to know to be able to change effectively along with you? Are they able to change? And then how are you reinforcing that change? Those are 5 things that all people need to be able to successfully change, adapt boldly, and make sure that your changes are integrated effectively. So this leads to my next breakout. And I want you to really think about, what are the things that are disruptive right now for you? What are the things that are getting in your way? Think about today, right? We've got video, which is amazing that we're able to take this and then be able to let others see it later. How many of you have ever been to a live streaming event? Yeah. Ever done Facebook Live on your phone? Maybe about 1. I know you're nodded your head. Yeah. Yeah, I do Facebook Live for my business. So there's all these different ways that we can connect with people, get information out. That's just one disruptor, is technology. So I want you to brainstorm at your tables, and you feel free to move around if you want to talk to a few others or get different points of view. But I want you to think about how you're engaging millennials. How are you using technology today, and how are you letting it enable you? And what are the needs of your clients? What do they look like? Do they look different than they did 10 years ago? Do you have a client avatar? Do you know what a client avatar is? It's like a picture of your ideal client. What does that client look like? What do they need? What do they like? What do they think about? Who am I really serving? 'Cause you got to get clear about your why, and then get clear about who you're really serving, and what are the other things that you need to focus on to make sure you're serving them in the right way. And what are other ways that they can be served as well that are competing with you? Who are your competitors? How many of you have done competitor analysis for the chamber? So a couple of you. Yeah, so I'll be really curious to hear who you see as your competitors. Because if you don't think you have competitors today, you're crazy. There's competitors for everything. You got to know who they are, know why you're different, and that can help accelerate you and accelerate your chapter. Okay, any questions for you? Do this next brainstorming? All right, looking forward to some great feedback here. Okay, time is up. I hate to break up these conversations, but I want to hear what you're talking about. So I'm curious, what are some of the disruptors that you identified? Who wants to start? How about over here? Yeah.
Be proactive in disrupting. But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, I definitely am, really looking at the vision, mission, and having a really concrete lens of then saying, to our board or our committees, how does it tie into that? And if it doesn't, we're never doing it again. And really taking that hard line, and that, and that's caused, I was joking with Steve, and I certainly my wife gets this at night. She goes, "Do you have any supporters on your board?" Because it sounds like, but it is doing the, it's making those hard decisions and saying, just because we've done this, if it's working well, we'll continue to do it. But there's more things that aren't working well, so we've got to not only cut the stuff we're not doing, but we've got to engage around new ideas, new programs, and let people, take the reign with that. But I joke is I feel like I disrupt something probably 2 or 3 times a week. And for me, personally, and I do this is what I do on, is if the right people are unhappy, then I know I've made the right decision.
I love that, and I love your tattoo. It says breathe. It's the number one thing you can do to make yourself more effective. Breathe on purpose. Breathe more intentionally. What else did you guys come up with on what's disrupting today that you need to focus on that's changing your chapter? How about this table over here?
I don't know, one thing that I brought up over here was that some of us are very geographically located next to each other, and geographic boundaries have blurred in the urban areas. You know, if you're a little bit more rural, I think it just hasn't touched you yet, but because of technology and other things, if you're in a more urban populous area, like in a Summit County near Akron or Cuyahoga County, there's so many chambers and the lines are just blurred, and that people are kind of hopping around. That was a term. You know, they kind of use the contacts in that community, see what kind of business they can get, and then they hop to the next chamber in the next community to, you know, go there for a year and a half and check out and build their book and move on. And there's no, I guess, loyalty to that community or chamber.
Yeah, because businesses change, right? I mean, I live in Brecksville, but I can serve the world. Right? So why would I only stick with one chamber? And what business can sustain itself by only connecting with one small community? Probably very few, right? So that's disruptive in how you're thinking about it. Anthony and I were having a conversation while you guys were doing this amazing brainstorming, and I said, you know, I think this is disruptive as well. My son is 19 years old, and he doesn't watch television. He hasn't for years. I mean, I thought we were disruptive, my husband and I, where we only do Netflix and things like that, but he doesn't even do Netflix or anything like that. So what's going to happen to Spectrum? These millennials, they don't watch TV. They're not joining cable. They need to get internet, right? They have to have wireless access, but you don't watch. Millennials don't. A lot of them don't. So that's disrupting. And if they don't pay attention, it's going to impact them. Was there anything out, any other interesting ideas you thought about what's disrupting? Yeah.
Don't even want to call them millennials because they're offended by that term. So I just say younger people. Yeah, the younger generation. So that's always talked about because it's huge. How do you engage those folks? What are you doing to get more of them involved? And there were just a lot of great ideas around the table. So, yeah.
I think, Cindy, you'll have to find a way to capture a lot of the ideas that they talked about, especially if they're coming up with good ideas around that. Because no one's got the right answer around this, but you've got to bring that to the table. You really got to think hard. And I encourage you to go back with your teams and really think about what's happening, what's disrupting. Right? I can work from anywhere, connect from anywhere. I can hold a Zoom call and talk to somebody in China with no problem. I don't have to be face-to-face anymore. If everything you have is face-to-face, you're not really connecting with the younger generation or even the older generation who doesn't have time to do that and wants to get involved in different ways but can't do it always in that way, traditional way.
People do not want to go to meetings. When they get home, when they close their office, they want to rest. So for the younger population who can work from anywhere or can run their business from anywhere, you know, I met one girl, I was trying to get her in the chamber in Cleveland. She gets all her business out of Detroit and California. So she's not interested in joining the Cleveland Chamber, even though she lives there. So that's very disruptive.
Yeah. So are small local chambers going to be viable?
So we are with Northern Medina County Chamber Alliance, and what was disruptive to us was our actual leadership. So we, like you, have not had an executive director. We are all board run right now. We were just talking here. We've got 24 new members this year. Half of them are millennials. Half of them. So I think the change of leadership was disruptive. The change has been phenomenal. It's not been easy, but we've given each committee, we've enabled them to make decisions, do whatever they have to do, and it has run so smooth like that. But we still need a director. We still need that director because I can't do it all. But we have an ambassadors committee with 12 people on it, and every day they are touching new members, and members who we need back that left before. So they do that every day, and it's just kind of engaging. Like this gentleman came in and said, "Oh, Northern Medina, I heard you had a great event the other night." Like, hey, that's great. Social media, LinkedIn, we're pushing. We push it all out. So we are engaging the millennials. I kind of feel good about it. But it's been a year now since we have not had a face, out there selling. So we put it onto the committees.
How do I say it? The president and our committees, but I don't think they're all given the support they need to go out on their own and do what they need to do.
Yeah. It's that empowerment, the ability to take decisions. Yeah. 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 Well, let's all have a drink. Okay. It's 5:00 somewhere. Thank you for sharing that. I know you didn't solve everything right now, but what's important is that you're thinking about this differently. You might not even need a director. Do you really need a director? Just because you've always had that hierarchy and bureaucracy, and this is how things always have been, does that mean that's how you have to exist? Challenge everything. Adapt boldly. Think differently. Get clarity. When you get clear on the purpose, on your why, you can run. Focusing that power that you have, that time that you have, because guess what? Time, you're not getting more of it. You're not getting more. The only thing you can do is be more effective with that time. Prioritize what is important with that time. Busy is an excuse. Busy is an excuse we give for a lot of things that we don't want to do. Right? If you want to do it, we make time. If it's important to us, we make time. Think about different ways that you can do it. And I want you to think about how you're making decisions today. They should be tied to that purpose. It should be clear who makes decisions. They should be given to the lowest level possible. Don't add bureaucracy where you really don't need it. I have a podcast called Brain Hacks for Leadership, where I interview social scientists and practitioners who really understand neuroscience and how you can apply it to yourself to lead yourself better, your organization, or lead others. And one of the podcasts I have is from Dr. Annie Duke, who's out in Pittsburgh, and she's really interesting. I think she won the worldwide poker championship. And she's really good at probability thinking and done a lot of work around probability thinking. And what she said is that, we get so stuck in having to be 100% right and having that 100% answer. We don't make decisions quickly enough. And remember, there's almost no 100% right answer to anything, right? There's always multiple ways to do things. So she talks about probability thinking. And if you're taking a decision, if you struggle, your board struggles with taking a decision forward, ask yourself, what's the probability this will succeed? Well, we got about an 80% shot. Okay, perfect. That's enough for us, right? 80% chance that it'll work. If it fails, you know what? We knew that it had a 20% chance to fail. Let's learn, let's move on. Apply that to your life, apply that to your boards, apply that to how you're thinking about taking decisions. Because if you don't, then if something does go wrong, what happens is that you internalize that and your board internalizes that, and it makes you slower. And remember, you have to adapt. You have to be quick. You have to be agile. So if you're interested in that one, go ahead and listen to that podcast for only about 20, 30 minutes. But it's just fascinating story and get you to really think about the neuroscience behind probability thinking as well. And it helps you, and it's going to help your board. Because if we think like, if pass or fail, win or lose, that paralyzes people. But if we think about it in probabilities and say, okay, if I don't do it this time, I'll grow, I'll learn, I'll take more chances, I'll take more risks, I'll want to be on your board if you're not penalizing me for being wrong. And another, I'll get these slides to you too if you're interested, but some research that just came up the other day, and it talked about companies that were more agile and the difference from a financial and other perspectives. And a couple of the things that I thought were really interesting, the top one was rapid iteration and experimentation. And so companies that are more agile, that empower employees, have less hierarchy, they're able to have more innovative ideas and create. Apply that to your chapter. Right? What about those that use technology systems and tools that are all connected with each other are much more agile as well. And then those that focus on continuous learning. How are you learning from your chapter? Do any of you do recaps around the quarter? What did we learn? How did that meeting go? What would we have done differently? Any of you do that today? So a couple of you are doing that. It's a practice you should do all the time. Personal reflecting, then reflecting as a team, reflecting as a chapter. It's going to make a big difference in your organization. And finally, at back of my table, I've got some things around the John Maxwell. I'm a John Maxwell team member. I'm one of his mentees. If you don't know John Maxwell, Google him or Google #1 leadership guru, and he will come up. He's written more business leadership books than anyone else. His focus is on servant leadership, and one of the things that he says is change is inevitable, growth is optional. Things are going to change. They're changing more rapidly every day. And that means that you have a choice. And what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to stay where you are and dig your heels in and say, people need to come to my meetings? Because that's how we do things. Or are you going to change and say, how do you want to connect? What are the best ways to do it? Can it be more fluid around that? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I really appreciated the time that I got to spend with you today. I hope you do some more work with the rest of your chamber leaders as well as you really think about how you want to change and how you want to look differently in the next few years. Thank you.
All right. Well, I know Jill will be here if anyone has any questions. Feel free to come up and ask her. And she's just a really great resource for your chamber if you struggle with change or you're struggling with a strategy or you have one and you can't get your board or staff or somebody behind it. When Jill was over here earlier, she said a quote that I think sums it up. If you can't get everyone behind your mission and vision, if you can't change the people, change the people. I like that. That really works. All right. Well, before we break for lunch, we do have, where's the clicker doodad? The clicker doodad. Isn't that what the whatchamajig thing? We do have a couple of real quick business things that we need to talk about. The way that NOACC is actually structured, every chamber has a seat on the board. That's just kind of how we are structured. So you have a representative and you have a vote and a voice as far as NOACC is concerned. To govern that board, we have an executive team. Excuse me. And our executive team at the moment, if I can read it this far away, we have Tony Gallo as our immediate past chair. He is in Las Vegas today. Tom Bennett is our at-large position over here. The instigator, is that what you said you were earlier? Disruptor, that's it. Karen Schaefer, at-large position with Heights Hillcrest right here. Cindy Peck is our secretary from Middleburg Heights. June Stolnaker, our treasurer, she actually just had foot surgery and then fell. So she said she had a huge shiner, so she didn't want to scare everyone. John Sobolewski is with the Fairview Park, North Coast, North Olmsted, West Shore, and the Power of More. And one of those has a golf outing today. I don't know which ones. And Jerry Vespoli is our chair, and unfortunately wasn't able to be here as well. In the folders that you have in the front pocket are the minutes from the October meeting. That was Pinstripes in Orange Village. That was the Bright Star Awards. Also at the back, if you flip that over, the back page of that is the treasurer's report. These are things that need to be reviewed and filed for audit, so we do have those copies. I'm not expecting you to sit here and read all of them, but if you do and you find any corrections or anything, please let me know. Those will be filed for audit. Okay, got them out of order. We do have 2 chambers that have already come on board with NOACC, but we do have to actually officially approve them. We have the Eastern Maumee Bay Chamber of Commerce. They are a returning member. And we also have the Minerva Area Chamber of Commerce. And Denise Freeland, if you will raise your hand, she is here. That she is with Minerva. So to make it official, everyone who would vote to accept these, please say aye. Anyone opposed? I hope not. Officially welcome Denise and the Eastern Maumee Bay Chamber. Now that I'm going to go backwards. Vendors that we have in attendance today, they're going to come up and talk after lunch, but I do want to introduce them. Some of them have stepped out. From Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, we have Caitlin Kedzor. Community Energy Advisors, we have Sarah Margolowski, Ken Pichowiak, and Dan Godinsky, and he is brand new with them. Paramount Preferred Solutions and Health Management Solutions, Mr. Peter Young. What? Sorry. Oh, sorry. All right. Peter. Peter Young is here. Partnership, Mr. Harry Senta is here. I'm going to say Mr. now. SLN Connect, Keith Latour will be here. I don't believe he's here at the moment. And with the Wellness Council of Ohio, we have Stephen Musgrave and Regina James in the back there. All right, so we did all that. That is the conclusion of our formal business meeting. I like that. All right, so moving on with our afternoon portion, we do have a special presentation this afternoon. I'm pretty sure everyone in the room has heard of this little company called Google. Well, yeah, right, Google it, right? There you go. Well, you're going to learn firsthand about the importance of your members' presence on Google and the value that Google My Business can drive. In conjunction with Google, SLN Connect is going to introduce exclusive enhancements to their platform to help members be found online and better engage their online audience. So please help me welcome Andrew Heiderscheit, right, from Google, and Mr. Keith Latour from SLN Connect.
Everyone, hopefully my exciting presentation doesn't put you all to sleep after that nice lunch. So to start us off, we're going to actually take a step back in time to when Google looked a little something like this. Back when we were just a tiny little search engine, only about 5% of the globe had access to the internet at this point in time. So something where, you know, if you're a small business, internet's not really something you're thinking about in your day-to-day. Fast forward to today, where that computer corner in your house is now a supercomputer in your pocket, and 50% of the world's population has access to the internet. So kind of a little bit more of an importance when it comes to, you know, managing your presence online. You know, we've become more and more connected, and this connection is, you know, we love our devices, but what we really love is the power that these devices give us as consumers. We have the literal information of the world at our fingertips at this point. So really, to give you some perspective on these numbers, back in 2008, last year, there was around 8 billion connected devices that could access the internet. So more devices than there are people. Fast forward to the projections for next year, and that's up to 20 billion devices. So growing at thousands of devices a day and continuing to accelerate. So we can see here that in this ever-connected world, business presence online is more and more and more important. So this increase in connectivity is having a really dramatic effect and impact on how we behave as consumers and how business owners interact with us as consumers. Nearly half of the smartphone users spent over 3 hours a day on their phones. So it's really important that we engage customers where they are and engage customers in the behaviors they're engaging in. And it's not just people playing games. Consumers are definitely in this slice of the pie. Over 1.8 billion of our global population engages in some sort of digital consumer behavior, whether that be market research, actively purchasing online. Our customers are online. So we have a saying at Google: focus on the user, follow the user, and all else will follow. So really, in this ever-connecting world, we took a couple looks at our consumer behaviors and what this ever-changing connected market really means for user behaviors. The first of which was we've become more curious. So how many times a day have you really just heard someone say, just Google it, as we saw just a couple minutes ago? So what this really means is that consumers are, want to find information on a regular basis. They're not going to, open up the yellow pages or say, oh, I'll just show up and figure it out. They're going to use their phones, they're going to do the market research, and they're going to want to find the information. The second piece is we've been more demanding. So as consumers get more information, they feel more empowered and think the world kind of revolves around them a little bit. We used to say there was a huge focus and shift around 2014, 2015, where we saw a huge spike in blank near me searches. Users want to know what's around them. But actually, over the last couple of years, we've seen a huge increase in consumers actually wanting for me searches. Over a 99% increase over the last 2 years. So consumers don't really care about what is around them, but they want to know what is out there for them. And finally, we've become more impatient. The consumers want access to information on demand right now. Almost half of sales have almost increased by half from 2004 to 2017 as far as digital touchpoints go in a consumer's active flow to purchase. So taking a look at these three main focus areas, consumers being curious, consumers being demanding, and consumers being impatient, what do we need to do to better connect with them? Well, we've entered the age of assistance. And so this is where Google My Business is here to help. So we've seen a 50% increase in local mobile searches, and 1 in 5 of those searches are related to location in particular. The majority of customers are not searching for businesses by name anymore. They're searching by broad sets of categories and activities around them. We need to engage in those types of searches. And customers are looking for context in their searches. Over a third of people are looking for very specific information, such as business hours, reviews. They want to do their research ahead. They want to know, is this the business that's right for them? And more importantly of all, they want connection with these businesses. Over 2/3 of consumers aren't just looking for that flat set of information, but they value the opinion to have a direct connection with these businesses, whether that be to call, to interact via chat on a smartphone, to leave reviews and hear responses. So we really need to be directly engaging our consumers on these mobile surfaces. So that's where Google My Business can help. Google My Business creates a plethora of connections. Over 3 billion connections every month to small businesses. If you excuse me for a second, the rest of my statistics are buried here somewhere. Just Google it. So in the last year, we helped drive over 100 billion visits to business websites, over 2 billion requests for directions to get to a business, and over 700 million phone calls to individual business listings. So clearly there's strong connections to be had, and if you aren't up to date in all your business information and you're not being engaged in these sorts of platforms, you're really missing out on a massive scale of consumer interaction here. So there's 3 main avenues that we say for you to use Google My Business. First of all, to stand out. Second of all, to engage with your consumers. And third of all, to help find new ones, because it's not good to just interact with the people you have. We want to be growing our businesses. So the first big area is to stand out. We want you to get noticed and to drive more customer consideration to your business listings. You can see here the empty listing on the left. There's pretty much no business information, where a lot of people will say they pull up Google Maps and search a business and say, oh, my pin shows up. I'm there. I'm on Google. Well, we do a lot on the background and use other sources to find that your business exists, but we don't really, those sources don't necessarily know that much about it, and the information that we do find might not be right. So we really need businesses to claim their listing and update that information and move from this barren listing on the left to this very full-fledged listing on the right. And what we see is when businesses engage in these listings and shift from the left to the right, they're almost 3 times more likely to be considered a reputable business and for consumers to interact with them. 7 times more likely to have people click on their business and interact with their website. And 70% more likely to attract a local visit via request for directions or things like that and actually visit the business in person. So you can see here that the act of just being on Google isn't enough. You really need to be on, engaged, and up to date on Google. Secondly, we saw 2/3 of customers are out there wanting a solid connection with these businesses. So we've introduced over the last couple of years a whole sweeping suite of ways for business owners to directly connect with their customers, whether that be local posts, so users can see the latest and greatest, whether that be, hey, here's a special sale we're offering, here's a coupon code to come on in, or even just, we've seen plenty of people just sharing memes on these things. It's just a way for consumers to know what your business is thinking, what your business is doing. Second of which, of course, is the tried and true reviews. We encourage people to not just read the reviews, but to interact and engage in these reviews, leaving responses, letting people know either thanks, as simple as just thanks for coming in, sees huge upticks in consumer interaction and return business. And then finally, a whole suite of new things like bookings, where make it easy for your consumers to engage at the point of consideration. So rather than having to wait and call, go in store to visit, let them just book on Google surfaces rather than making them run the full gamut. And that way, you capture them at the point of consideration. And then finally, give people the ability to find new customers based on the old ones. So via our new insights suite, and we're continuing to increase the number of insights we provide every month, we allow allow merchants to better understand how consumers are getting from Google into their business, whether that be the types of searches that their consumers are using to find their business, finding heat maps of where direction requests are coming from. So we know, hey, just east of Cleveland, I'm seeing a lot of traffic, so I really want to focus my ad spend on the west side to better drive engagement from consumers on that side. All these variety of statistics enable business owners to improve upon what they're doing. So via these 3 kind of main avenues, claiming and updating your business profile, interacting with customers, and then leveraging deep insights to figure out how to improve upon the process for moving forward. Those are the 3 main areas of focus where Google My Business can really, really help individual businesses of any size to grow, to better interact with their current customers and grow their customer base to ever-expanding heights. So that, I think the remote died. So that's all I have. So I'd like to bring up Keith over here to come talk about a little bit about SLN Connect and how he's interacting with Google to help drive this product to local chambers of commerce just like you.
Well, thank you for being with us. Again, thank you, Andrew. I also want to thank some of our other special guests that are here from Thrive Hive and Gatehouse Media. And it's really about partnership. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And partnership makes the dream work. It's funny to say, clicker. Got to use Google to find a battery. Well, there you go. All right. It's amazing to see 5 years ago, almost to the day, is when we first partnered with NOACC. It's exciting to me to come back here to bring Google to announce this partnership because, as you guys all know, we're based here. Right here in Northeast Ohio. We started here, and we've grown to almost 375,000 businesses nationwide based on the partnership here. But again, the world evolves every single day, and it really is driven, obviously, by technology. And when you look at where we started at Save Local Now as a deal and event app, right? That fed information through an app about your local businesses. Well, guess what? The world changed. People stopped using apps because guess what? Google made search a little bit better. And literally, when you could just Google it, why are you going to go to another app, search through that app to find something you're looking for, right? So we said, okay, great. So we became a digital marketing hub. We moved from a deal and event app, actually screwed up the thing there, or the title there, but we moved from that to a digital marketing hub where we added email marketing, we added social posting, we added electronic gift cards in order to give your businesses more ways to interact with their customer. But when it comes down to it, when they're just Googling it, it's about how do we create that opportunity to be found more often by the customers that are looking for them. So now, through our partnership, we're able to bring a relationship with Google that will help answer the question, and ThriveHive, that will help answer the question, does that work now? What do I do? When do I do it? How do I do it? What happened after I did it? And what do I do now? These are the questions we get from your businesses, right? Okay, great, I've got your platform. What do I do with it, right? How often do I do it? When do I do it? When I do something, what do I do after I do it? Every single time. So when you look at this and you say, okay, it starts here. It starts with Google. How's your business look on Google, all right? You got to start with the baseline. And the baseline, obviously, with what Andrew said, is this is where it needs to be. And with Google Grader, complements of ThriveHive, we're able to tell your businesses, you're going to be able to run actually scans for every single one of your businesses, and we could bulk send this to you to see exactly how every single one of your businesses appear on Google, right? So you can walk in there and say, hey, guess what? You've got a problem. We can help you fix this. Actually, we can help you fix that on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. So what it does is going to measure, everything about Google, your presence, right? What's on there? Photos, videos. Do you have accurate information about your address? Do you have descriptions? What about the reviews? Are you responding to them? Do you have reviews? Do you have questions? Have you provided answers? Everything that's meaningful to the customers that are searching for your businesses, we're going to answer with the Google Grader and basically say, hey, here's everywhere that you need to fix. Now, they can fix it themselves, obviously, right? But it's a challenge. It's trying to find the time, and that's what the biggest resource that small businesses are challenged with is time. Can I find the time to do this? Well, Guided Inbox actually is going to do this for us. So we're adding Guided Inbox into our SLN Connect, and here's what it's going to do. It's going to advise you how to optimize your Google profile. Literally let you know exactly what you need to do. It's going to monitor multiple sources, identify top priorities, including competitors. You can actually track your competitors through the Guided Inbox. It's actually going to show you what they're posting and what they're doing online, right? It also gives you some incentive, too, to see what other people are doing. But more importantly, think about Instagram, right? Facebook, Yelp, all that stuff is going to feed directly into the inbox and actually provide one place for your businesses to find the information they need to connect and engage with customers, right? Alerts on top actions to take, notifications requiring attention in real time. Think about a review, right? How important is it to respond to a review immediately, right? Or within short order, correct? Good, bad, or indifferent, people expect that interaction now, right? Real time. Again, to Andrew's point, they want it now. So again, you need to be notified of it, and you don't want to have to go log in somewhere or multiple places to find out that you've been reviewed when we can feed it all into one location. And guidance, marketing best practices. One of the things we use, artificial intelligence and machine learning to do this is basically when you get a bad review, a one-star review, God forbid you do, first thing it says is breathe. Because sometimes we get emotional. We're emotional about our small business, and we say, hey, I take that personally. We had a business the other day that called us and said, listen, I just got a one-star review on Google My Business, and they didn't even come to my business. They literally said in the review, I've never been here, and slapped a one-star review on them. We were able to contact our friends and say, hey, this is a little ridiculous. This shouldn't be appearing. We were able to get that removed from their Google profile. So again, these are the things that businesses think about, things that keep them up at night. So, long and short of it, we're going to be able to respond to social posts, customer reviews, everything, for less than a cup of gas station coffee a month. And I'll get to the Starbucks coffee in a minute. But $20 a month for your businesses to basically have fed all the information that's critical for them to keep their business functioning properly online, visible, engaged, and connecting with their audience. Need more help? We've also got you covered. One of the things that ThriveHive does and what they've built and what they've pioneered is guided marketing. And it's really getting people to effectively help small businesses do what they need to do. So many times I hear from small businesses that I'm paying $500 a month, I'm paying $1,000 a month to get guidance on what I should be doing online, right? And they don't feel like they're getting the value. They're not getting the analytics. They're not being told what exactly the benefit. They're actually not seeing the business walk through their door, With this, we actually can set up your business with a consultant that will work with you every single month to not only make sure GMB's synced and everything's working properly there, but more importantly, help you create posts. You know, take a look at what your social media is doing and how to improve it, and actually work with you for $99 a month. So it's ongoing for your businesses to take advantage of this thing. Now, again, yeah, is there a cost to it? Absolutely. But when you compare to what's available in the market and the power of what we're providing, no one else can touch it. And guess what? Like anything else we do, it's exclusive to you guys. Now, will this help me engage members and attract new ones? That's what we're always about. That's what we've been about from the beginning of SLN Connect. You know, basically, it comes down to, we're going to be able to show you exactly how every one of your members appears online. So imagine looking at a report, seeing all the businesses in your chamber and saying, oh my God, their score on Google is 30%, 20%, 10%, 40%. Imagine being able to walk into their business and say, look, this is what we found. Let's fix it. Do you think that adds value? Do you think your members would appreciate that? Do you think it puts you at the leading edge of a chamber of commerce out there? It does. And that's the thing. That's the thing we struggle with so much, you know, with the chambers. And what I hear about so much from you guys is that, you know, what do I need to, I need to do something more to create value. They came to the networking event once. I did the ribbon cutting, the press release, the mayor came out. Now that next year when they come to renew, they don't answer the phone, right? Does that ever happen? No. Imagine being able to show them everything that you were able to do, not only get their grade, but also all the impact that these services had to impact their business and drive to the store. You think that's worth a membership due? I hope you say yes, right? You know? So you look at, so you help to create, claim, verify, optimize, offer self-certed guided inbox, and offer a guided marketing specialist to help them get the work done. And the last part is for prospects, and this is something that we've been excited to roll out for some time, and we waited for this moment, is actually something we call Prospect Connect. What this is going to allow you to do is to actually upload every single one of your prospects, because guess what? You have your members, and then there's that other database that's, you know, hasn't chosen yet to join, you know? And what have you done? So you've gone back to them, you've called them, you've emailed them, you texted them, and you say, hey, come, let's talk, let's do this. And they ask, what are you doing differently? Why should I join today versus the last time you asked me, right? Imagine being able to walk in right now and say, hey, look, here's your Google grade. I can help you fix this for free if you want to do it yourself, or I can provide services at a value that you're not going to find anywhere else to help you do it yourself, or get the help of somebody, a professional, to do it. So literally you're going to be able to load all your prospects in. We're going to take them through an educational marketing campaign that will actually tell them how to do all this stuff. We're going to give you updates on exactly what they do during that trial, and then ping you when that trial is up, or shortly before that trial is up, to reach out to them and say, hey, here's everything they did, here's everything they used. Now you can use data to say, here's the value I'm creating for you. You know, let's get that membership application signed. Does it make sense? Good? I'm getting some head nods, right? So anyways, you know, long and short of it, we're super excited about this for a number of respects. Is that this is an idea that we've had for a long time. We tried to do it ourselves 4 years ago. I tell these guys all the time, is that we try to do this with humans, and it's just cost prohibitive. We couldn't do it. But with the technology they bring to the table, we bring to the table, and obviously with Google, we're able to accomplish all this and deliver this through your channel and deliver it as a benefit to your membership. So guess what? Because you're in this room, you guys get first access to all of this stuff. We are actually doing a very controlled rollout over the next probably 8 to 12 months throughout our entire network. We're starting here in Ohio. We're starting here with NOACC. And we're going to start sending emails probably the 1st of June, letting you know how all this is going to work. And it's going to be really easy for you guys. And that's the one thing. We're going to provide you with the content to talk about this stuff. We're going to be able to provide you with the grades. We're going to be able to provide you with all the materials you need to effectively talk about this. And guess what? They're going to be able to reach out with us through chat once they run their grade and learn about all the things that they need to be doing or could be doing and getting value from the platform. All right? Well, thank you so much, and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.